My guest is Christopher Brown, who is the President and CEO of Tourism and Transport Forum Australia, representing the private sector of tourism stakeholders in Australia. How are you?
Not too bad, but we also have the pleasure of representing some of our public sector friends as well. So TTF itself, which is strange and compared to most associations around the world, is a bit of a public-private partnership, which has its challenges, having both the public sector and the private sector in the one forum, but at the end of the day it's a challenge worth taking and it makes the outcomes more effective. We're a big, tough global industry now, the most globally traded good or service on earth. Every country on earth has some type of tourism product, or every city, as Professor Nordstrom was telling us this morning, has some sort of product. So when you're in that sort of standard, when you're up there competing with manufacturing and mining and agriculture and other services, we're going to face the same challenges they face in some ways, and that is, does the world slip into a global recession? Okay, Foot Locker's closing 100 stores in America this week. We heard this morning the Singaporean finance minister claiming that the contagion of recession has spread beyond America and it will affect the rest of the world. So how do we respond to that? We have stellar growth figures that people will quote at us about the future of travel and tourism over the next 10 to 15 years. How do we survive the next 2 years when we still don't have new metal, new planes in the sky, so we're being held back by supply constraints, at the same time as we might have demand constraints come as business travel gets sliced? It's hard to be Merrill Lynch laying off 4,000 people around the world and be seen to be having lavish conferences. It's hard for some communities to be struggling to pay their mortgage yet still put the kids in the car or on a train or a plane and go for a family holiday. So we have to get through those 2 years. Out of every challenge comes an opportunity, and if you're bold and smart and flexible, you adapt to them. Mind you, when you call it an opportunity, if there's a lot of people laid off, they might see it as an opportunity to take another job in another sector. So one of the challenges for the tourism industry is how, in potentially declining demand area, we're able to hold on to our good staff, because there simply aren't enough of them. Another opportunity, though, is how you become more flexible. Do you take the time for a bit of housekeeping, a bit of upgrade, a bit of R&D? If you're not focused as absolutely day-to-day managing the customer front line, if there's a bit of a downturn, take the opportunity to replenish your product. Because the problem in this industry often is it's such an operational industry. We don't get the time to sit and stop and think as often as some other industries do. We don't invest as much in R&D as other industries do. If we're going to get back to be leading the global business community as innovators like we used to be 10, 20 years ago, maybe it's a bit of time out's not a bad thing if we use it wisely. Without being alarmist, within our lifetime, and often when you talk about climate change, it's what's going to happen in 100 years. Within 20 or 30 years, we could face an inevitability of the barrier reef losing its colour. Inherently the reef dying, the beautiful colours that people around the world who, whether they've dived there, whether they've looked in a brochure, whether they saw Nemo the movie, whatever their knowledge of the barrier reef. Because of climate change, we have the capacity to kill the barrier reef. So we have to act decisively and quickly. The very nature of climate change, it's the first real issue to come along where no matter what I do in Sydney, no matter what anybody does in Alaska, what they do in Czech Republic, what they do in Paris, if we don't do it all together, it doesn't work. These are challenges that we have to do something about. We're saying in Australia, one, address the consumer issue. Let's have a concept whereby one carbon offset scheme that covers a nation, that every tourism industry company buys into, and the proceeds of that voluntary offset scheme go into replenish our national parks, go into research to save our barrier reef, go into projects where the consumer can see, if I'm having a trip to Australia, I'm told it's long haul travel, I'm told that's bad for the planet, I know that every cent I spend, a portion of that is going back in to replenish Australia's natural assets, its national parks. We think that's a compelling case to take on where challenge becomes opportunity, both commercially, because we have 500,000 Australian jobs dependent upon it, but more importantly, we have 20 million Australians whose children deserve to be able to see the barrier reef with colour, should be able to ski down through Mount Kosciuszko, should be able to visit the outback and see wildlife having a drink, should be able to visit the magnificent islands that make up Australia. If the mix of pocket and heart don't motivate you on this one, then I don't know what we do.